But this guy is legit. And
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to start getting used to saying the name Giga Chikadze.
What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo, yo.
Nick, Giga Chikadze was as advertised last night, TKOing Edson Barbosa in the third round.
Yeah.
Is there anybody scarier at 145 right now than Giga Chikadze?
I don't think so. And I think recency bias is a real thing, but this guy is legit. And
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to start getting used to saying the name Giga Chikadze because I have a feeling he's going to be a problem for everybody at 145, maybe even 155 eventually for quite some time.
Yeah, he's a tall guy, so we could
Yeah.
see him. He could be one of those guys that, goes up towards the end of his career.
Yeah.
This was a spectacular performance, and it was a fun fight for as long as it lasted. It was entertaining by both men. I was so impressed with Edson's checks, his returns, his boxing has been continuing to improve, but the story really last night was the speed and accuracy of Giga. And it was interesting to see he was perfectly comfortable being the outside fighter, kind of having his back against the cage, pretty comfortable in the fact that Edson wasn't going to shoot for a takedown. And he showed last night that even if Edson did want to go to the ground, that he's got some finishing capabilities and his ground game and grappling is coming along as well.
Yeah.
But the straight punches, the distance that he was covering with that power too was incredible. He was landing that shot from a distance that I didn't think he could really land it, and he was throwing head kicks from a very close range. That's almost that karate style in his background that allows him to whip that leg up there and hit you in the head from a range that seems to not be able to do that.
Yeah, and he has those really long kicks, and he was utilizing that really well. And Edson did a great job checking him, and Giga was checking just as well. It was high-level stuff, especially in that first round. But it was really impressive to see him throwing from that long-range kicking distance and then also punching from there and being accurate and landing some of those shots. It's very impressive because everybody knows your arms aren't quite as long and don't have the reach of your legs. So it can be a little bit difficult when you are choosing to be an outside fighter and kicking a lot. But he's able to do it. He's able to cover some ground. It said he was 6 feet tall. I didn't realize he was that big. It seems like there's quite a few guys at the 145 division that are the tall, lanky, kind of like him, kind of like Zabit, Yair Rodriguez. I didn't think that Edson Barbosa was 5'11". I feel like maybe he was like 5'8" or 5'9".
I thought so too.
In his last tail of the tape. But I could be wrong on that. I don't remember exactly. But Giga Chikadze looked a little bit longer than him, and the speed was different. There was a serious speed advantage for Giga, which Edson's always had against people, generally
Against
at 155.
everybody pretty much.
Yeah, at 155, he always had it, right? He was really fast there. But when he came to 145, we thought he might be the slower guy, and he turned out to be faster than his first few opponents. This one was a little different. Giga was getting off his punches and kicks and kind of dictating the pace of the fight, and it was a very fast-paced fight.
Yeah, and I mean, he's 9 fights in a row now, nine fight win streak. The one thing that you could point out, if you looked at the first 6 fights, I think most of them were decisions, but the last 3 have all been cold-blooded KOs. Giga has really turned on the finishing ability. That was the one thing in his game that, in my opinion, he really needed to bring along if he's going to be a title contender and possibly a champion at 145, which after last night's performance, I fully believe that he can be. I think he actually is a bad matchup for Max Holloway, who he called out last night saying, look, I don't just kick, I kick the you-know-what out of people. I thought that was great. Sign me up for Giga versus Max. But if you want to fight Max Holloway, you got to try to get him out of there because it's going to be a 5-round fight, and Max is a cardio machine. He will not fatigue. So I think the fact that Giga's showing an extreme ability to smell blood in the water and go for the finish is what has really taken him to the next level lately and allowed him to finish legends like Cub Swanson and now the biggest name on his resume, Edson Barbosa.
Yeah, and this game is all about high risk, high reward, right? So when you look at the top 10, and he was number 10 going into last night, he'll move up likely further than 9 where Edson was sitting. Everybody from 10 all the way to the champion, has a difficult fight on their hands when they sign to fight Giga Chikadze. The most difficult fight for Giga would be Max Holloway, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think he probably beats everybody else that's in the division. But Max, I would have to really think about it and before I made my final prediction on that one. But I love that he's calling out the toughest guy in the division, the person that everybody thinks is the champion. Even though he doesn't currently have the belt, people still understand that Max Holloway is and has been forever one of the best 145ers that's ever lived. And I don't know if he's going to get that fight next. I'd love to see it, but it seems to me like maybe he's going to bump down to about a 6 or 5 ranking.
Yep.
And then they're going to give him somebody right around there, right at 3 or 4, somebody like that. And I honestly can't find anybody in the rankings that matches up fairly with him other than Max Holloway. So it's going to be a tough night in the office for whoever does get Giga next.
Yeah, and he's kind of like become the Islam Makhachev of 145. Nobody wants to fight him for a different reason than Islam. Obviously, Islam, nobody wants to fight him just because he's like an anaconda with the grappling. He just suffocates you. Giga is just a devastating striker. Some of those body kicks that he landed last night, the straight punches, they're so powerful. They're so accurate. Yeah. And the optics is kind of funny because when you look at Giga, you wouldn't think that this guy is an explosive, powerful, accurate striker.
Right.
Coming from Georgia, they're known for their grappling and they're great wrestlers, but he is just an ace. And to have a speed advantage, as you said, against somebody like Edson Barbosa is something that's almost unheard of.
Yes.
And I think that the matchup with Max really will come down to, can Giga successfully land the kicks in that boxing range? Because we know Max is going to throw crazy volume. He's going to come forward. He's going to put a ton of pressure on Giga, and Giga's not going to be able to box with him punch for punch. He's going to have to mix the kicks in. He's going to have to make Max respect that power, going upstairs, going to the body, going to the legs with the kicks. And if he can land those successfully in that range, I think he can find some success against Holloway. But a win like last night gets all the guys who weren't looking forward to a fight with Giga now saying, okay, this guy's got a little steam behind his name. It might be worth taking the chance and rolling the dice and seeing if I can get this guy out of there. Because one thing about a hype train is it rolls down the track until somebody steals all the steam.
Right.
And once they do, they're the next hype train.
Right. Look at Cheeto Vera.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't a name that people really knew before the Sean O'Malley fight. He got the win over Sean, and then after that, he's fighting big names every time. You know, he's fighting Frankie Edgar coming up later this year. So he did steal some thunder from Sean. And I think if you, like we said, high risk, high reward, Giga has some steam right now. If you can beat Giga, that means you're beating one of the best guys in the entire division.
Yeah.
But, you know, I feel like the 145 division is still known as one of the top 3 divisions in all of the sport, right?
Yeah.
You got 55, 70, and 45. Those 3 are always in the competition to see who, and it's usually just whoever's the most recent, you know, competing for the belts or the top contender matchups. I feel like Giga has taken over as the premier striker in the 145 division. It was Zabit and Yair, right? But their inactivity has kind of left us, you know, with some questions about them, and we need to see them fight again. Giga has definitely been on the scene, and, you know, he's using this pace that's crazy, so he's very exciting to watch, just like those other 2 guys. But he's almost a little riskier, and he's almost a little more I don't want to use the word reckless, because what he's doing is very technical and tactical and thought out, but he has that sort of free and wild man style about him that is a fight fan's dream.
Yeah.
You love to see that when you see a fighter coming onto the scene, and they're not like winning fights by holding people down and kind of boring you to decisions. You have a guy that's electric and has dynamite in everything he throws, and he's throwing it the entire time, and he has such a fast pace that his opponents, give Edson some credit. He tried to maintain that same pace with Giga, but he realized in the 3rd round that it was just a little bit too much for him, and weaponizing pace in round 1 and round 2 really helped Giga get the finish that he was looking for.
Yeah, and I really liked the awareness of how he got the finish, because he knocked Edson down, and then he wants to show that what he's working on with Rafael Cordero and the great grapplers that they have over at King's MMA, that his submission game is coming along, his grappling game is coming along. But let's be real. Last night, the person who had the advantage in the grappling was the Brazilian, was Edson Barbosa. But Giga showed, okay, I knocked him down. I'm going to lock up that anaconda choke. I think he switched it to a Darce after that, showing multiple different submission ability, the ability to transition. But ultimately, he realized in that moment, this is not the best way for me to finish this fight. Yeah. And so then what he did was, I know I need to, if I let Edson back up one more time and I put him down again, it's over. Yeah. So he had good awareness there to know that, to do that, execute the game plan, and get a TKO of a striking legend.
Yeah, and he had great awareness. A lot of times when you see a guy that has somebody hurt, and maybe they'll go shoot for a submission, which, by the way, he looked very natural in those grappling submission exchanges, but he realized, he's slippery and he's going to try to hold me and relax so he can get his wits back about him. And somebody like Edson, who's been in there and been rocked before, knows that if you can take about 45 seconds to grapple and try to not get hit in the head, you can usually get yourself back on your feet and feel a little bit more normal again. But Giga, let him back up, sort of. Edson fought his way back up, but then Giga didn't force him down or try to force a position. He let him get up, and instead of being crazy and gung-ho, he watched Edson's hands and knees. They were still on the ground, so he didn't go throw a knee like Peter Yan. He didn't throw an illegal kick. He waited. As soon as his hands came up, he came with that sniper-accurate shot and came up with, I think it was a two-punch combination that just, ended the fight. And all of that.
It folded Edson.
Right. Yeah. That fight could have been stopped a little earlier. I'm glad they didn't, because Edson did seem like he had his wits about him still up until that very last moment. But that fight could have been stopped about 10 or 15 seconds earlier than it was.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I'm super excited to see who they pair him up against next. I think Max Bless would be a great fan favorite matchup. That could be a fight of the year candidate.
Yeah, it's a big jump in the rankings, and I think this fight particularly delivered. Everybody was kind of excited. If you're a serious fight fan, you knew this was going to be a great fight, and it absolutely delivered. A lot of times when you have two monsters in there and they seem like they're going to give you the dream matchup, it kind of falls short, but this one didn't fall short. I really enjoyed this fight.
Me too. 12 minutes of pure excitement.
Absolutely.
Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Let us know in the comments what you thought about Giga's performance and if it was deserving of a matchup against the 145 great Max Bless Holloway. As always, if you've enjoyed the content, a like, comment, and subscribe is appreciated. And if you listen to audio podcasts, check us out where you listen to those as well, because we are there in audio form. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Peace.